Hello guys, so today we're going to be solving absolute value inequalities. It's going to be the same process as regular absolute value equations, so it should be relatively easy to do. Now, before I forget, I do have to show you this example, just so you guys know, just in case it comes up in the test, so hint, 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 this might come up in the test that we're going to be taking on Tuesday. Just giving you guys a heads up. Alright, so let's say we have 2x minus 5 is equal to negative 8 is equal to negative 8, right? Okay, let me reread it. So absolute value of 2x minus 5 minus 8 equals to negative 8. Now, first things first, I have to go ahead and solve for, move everything to the other side. So I have to move everything to the right that's not an absolute value. So I'm going to go ahead and do plus 8. I'm going to go ahead and do plus 8. As you're going to notice, I'm going to get 0 and 0. So now we have 2x minus 5, or the absolute 2x minus 5, is equal to 0. Now, I'm not going to solve for it. I'm just going to tell you something very important. Notice this. Notice this guy right here. That one right there. Now, if you have an absolute value like this is my absolute value, right? And across you have a 0. Then that means that your absolute value only has one answer or one solution. You're only going to have one solution. It's important. It's going to come up in a test or similar questions. So I just want you guys to understand that. Okay. So if we get that and it's equal to 0, then you only have one solution. All right. So just letting you guys know. Okay. So again, if your equation that they're telling you to solve for is, you have your absolute value over here, right? And on the other side of the equal sign is a 0, then you only have one solution. It doesn't change. Okay, that's only when it's equal to, all right? It's going to be a little different with absolute value. Now, we're going to go ahead and already do inequalities. Okay, we're going to go ahead and focus on inequalities because that's what we're doing for. So the first equation that we're going to be dealing with is this one. And I want you guys to keep writing this in your notes just so you know how to do it. And then you're going to be doing the next following problems. So that's the absolute value and that's my problem. Okay. So first things first, we're going to have to solve for this bad boy. Now, just like we did before, we're going to have two different equations. So I'm going to separate this into two different equations. Okay, my first equation is going to be this. X minus 3 is going to be greater than or equal to 4. Okay, I'm going to copy it exactly like it's shown. That's my first equation. The second equation is going to be the one that changes. So it's going to be x minus 3. And now because we're dealing with inequalities, we actually going to have to go ahead and flip the sign. I'm going to flip the sign, so now it's going to be less than or equal to instead of being greater than. You see how it's greater than over here? For the second equation, I'm actually going to have to go ahead and flip it. Now, we also have to change the number. It's going to be in negative 4. That's the first thing that we got to do. Now, we just solve for the inequalities. It should be relatively easy. So I'm going to put my line, same thing. Now I'm going to do plus 3, and I'm going to bring everything else down. Those two cancel out. I'm going to add those. So I'm going to have 7. And over here I'm going to have x is going to be greater than or equal to 7. There you go. Easy. Now over here we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to hook it to my line. Let me erase up there just so I can have them both. I'm going to do plus 3. Which cancels those out, and this is going to be plus 3. What's negative 4 plus 3 is going to be negative 1. Right, so it's going to be negative 1. Over here, I bring out my x, so I have x is less than or equal to negative 1. Now, I have my two solutions already. And the test is coming up. They're going to ask you to go ahead and put this into a number line. So I'm going to go ahead and do that was a pretty straight line. I'm surprised. I mean, considering it's pretty straight. You're gonna have a number line. The number in the middle is gonna be 0, and then you're gonna have your numbers over here. Okay, and also on the other way. Okay, so you're gonna have a number line that you're gonna have to deal with. Now, this is -1, and this is 7. Okay, so what I want you guys to do at this point, I want you guys to put your inequalities, or your answers for your inequalities, the storm answers, into a number line. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna look at this guy first. What is my first point? It's gonna be 7. So I'm gonna go ahead, look at 7. All right, 7's right here. Right on top of it, I'm actually gonna put a closed circle. The reason why I'm putting a closed circle is because I have this line right there. Okay, it says equal to is greater than or equal to. So I'm putting a closed circle. Now it's saying x is what? Greater than. So x is gonna go this way. Okay, that's my first line. Now I'm gonna have to look at the second one, my second answer over here, and I'm gonna have to represent it on the number line. So I'm gonna go ahead to -1, and it says x is what? Less than or equal to. So that's why I did a closed circle. Now we're gonna go ahead and go to less than. So that's my answer. If they ask me to put on a number line, that's exactly how it's gonna look. And that's it. That's all you need to do for your, I can't even talk, absolute value inequalities. I'm gonna give you 2 problems I want you guys to work on by yourself, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do them, just so you guys can check your answers. So the next one's gonna be 5. This one's flipped though, so make sure you watch your inequality. Okay, and then the other one that I want you guys to work on is going to be this one. 2x minus 8 minus, okay, those are the 2 problems I want you guys to go ahead and work on, and make sure you pause the video and try them. Okay, now I hope that you pause the video, and I'm gonna go ahead and work them. So this one's what? This one's gonna be, oh my god, that's horrible. Looks like a 7. All right, this one's 5 is greater than 2x plus 7. All right, at this point it's gonna be pretty easy. All I have to do is just separate it into 2 different equations. The first equation is gonna be this one. Gonna copy it exactly like you see it on there. And the second one, I'm gonna have to rotate and change the sign on my number. There we go. That's the hardest part of the entire problem. Now we just have to solve for x. So in this case, I'm gonna have what? 2x, right? Oh shoot, no. I was having a brain fart right there for a second. I'm gonna move the 7 first. So -7 minus 7. Those 2 cancel out. Over here I'm gonna have a -2. And I'm gonna bring everything else down. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this. I'm gonna bring out my 2x. So now I have 2x is less than -2. Now I'm gonna divide both sides by 2. And finally, I have -1 is greater than x. Okay, I'm gonna leave it like that because I don't want to get confused. That's my first answer. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the other one. So now we're gonna have to move the 7 again first. -7, those 2 cancel out. Over here I have a -7. And also I have a -5, so that becomes a -12. Is less than 2x. Now I'm gonna have to go ahead and divide by 2. Now I have x is greater than negative 6. I know it looks very weird because we have everything backwards, right? Okay, I wanted to write them like this first, but you can also flip them. So in other words, I can have this one's x is less than negative 1 and x is greater than negative 6. It means the exactly same thing, but it's just flipped. Okay, just letting you guys know. So that's the first thing that you got to focus on those two. And that's it. That's all we have to worry about those guys. Now at this point, it's very easy just to write my number line. I'm going to go ahead and do my number line. But this one, I'm going to do a little bit easier just so I don't have to struggle so much. I'm going to pick my 2 points. So it's going to be negative 1. And also, I have a negative what? Negative 6. Okay? I have negative 1, negative 6. It doesn't really matter where my number line is at. And now I'm going to look at what it says. X has to be what? Less than negative 1. So I'm going to put an open circle. And it's going this way. Now I'm going to look at my other one. X is greater than negative 6. So over here, open circle again. And I'm going to go over here on this side. Now, you notice how I didn't keep going, right? I could have actually kept going this way. But whenever it comes to inequalities, both of your answers have to be true, right? So my answer has to be less than 1. So it has to go this way. But also my answer has to be greater than negative 6. So just keep that in mind. So that's why I drew it just like that. That's where it stopped. It doesn't keep going. I know a lot of people get confused with that. But no, just keep that in mind. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my other problem. So we have all that already set up. That's my answers. And we're going to look at the problem. So it's going to be 2x minus 8. 8, I'm going to put my inequality signs. And, oh my god, it's right here. Minus 1. Minus 1 is less than or equal to 3. So first things on this problem, we have to solve for my absolute value. So I'm going to have to move everything to the right side. So plus 1, plus 1. Okay, so now we have 4. I'm going to put my inequality. And I'm going to write my negative 8 and my 2x inside. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now we're going to have to write my 2 different equations. The first equation is exactly like the top one, just without the absolute value. Now my second equation, I start the same way, but I'm going to have to flip my inequality and change the number in front. At this point, you just solve for x on both sides. So plus 8, plus 8, my 8's cancel out. Now I have 4 plus 8, which is 12. Now I have 2x is greater than or equal to 12. I'm going to have to divide by 2. Now I have x is less than or equal to 6. That's one of my answers. And now I'm going to have to go ahead and do the other one. This is plus 8. This is plus 8. Those two cancel. I end up over here with 4 is... Oh, shoot. I forgot. I'm telling you guys to focus on stuff and I didn't even focus on. This one's going to be greater than. Because I have to flip the sign. So it's going to be greater than or equal to. So it's 2x is greater than or equal to 4. Now right here I'm going to have to divide by 2. Divide by 2. So x is going to be greater than or equal to 2. Okay, that's my second answer. Now we're going to have to go ahead and put it under a number line. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to do 0. I'm going to do 2. That's my first point. Now 6 is my second point on which I'm going to decide what to do. Now, both of my dots are going to be colored in because I have the equal sign. with my inequality. Now, I'm going to look at the first one that says x is less than. So this guy's going to go this way. X is less than or equal to 6. Okay, and over here it says x is greater than or equal to 2. So just like the previous one, they're going to be connecting to each other, and that's it. They don't go anywhere else after they connect to each other. And that's my answer for that one. Okay? So as long as you understand all that, then you should be good for the test on Tuesday. So I want you guys just to look at this on Monday. I know it's a lot. It seems like a lot of notes, but it really isn't. Same thing, main thing that you guys need to worry about is knowing how to solve for x whenever it comes to. Now, I didn't mention this because it didn't come up in the problem, but what if I get this, like -2, before we finish? Now, I'm just going to do an inequality, so -2x plus 4 is less than, okay, actually, it's greater than 8. Okay, let's say we have this problem. -2x is greater than or equal to 8. So whenever you get a problem like this, you're going to notice that over here, I'm going to have to go ahead and divide by -2. Divide by -2. Now, this is only whenever you divide. And also, it only works with inequalities. Divide and multiply. By a negative. So whenever you divide and multiply by negative, you're going to notice that your sign has to rotate. You're going to have to flip it. But you only flip it if you multiply or you divide by negative. You leave it the same if you add or subtract. Just make sure you remember to move it just in case. Like all the problems that we did, and I think even on the test you don't have to flip it, but just make sure you keep that in mind. If they give you a negative and you have to divide or multiply by a negative, then you're going to have to flip your sign. Okay, so that would be my final answer. And I want you guys to look at this sign right here and this sign right here. Because I had to divide by -2, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to rotate it. And that's it. I know this video was a little longer, but it just, it's just, you need to do your number line and put it on there. That's why it took a little longer, but hopefully you guys understood what was going on. We should have done this in class already, so this is the second time that you see it before the test.